We are on to NFL Championship weekend. 2 games left for this weekend, and then we have the Super Bowl. And I'm here to give you my favorite player props for this weekend. I'm going to have 4 picks for you total, 2 in each game, 1 on each team, so you have something to root for no matter who has the ball. Before I can give you my picks for this weekend, I want to do a recap from the last time you saw me, which was awesome. On Sunday, I gave out 2 picks. We got both of those plays to cash. We had a chalk anytime touchdown parlay. Anytime touchdown plays with Jibreel Gibbs and Isaiah Pacheco. Both of them ended up scoring. We end the day up 2.3 units. Pretty good. That brings our entire profit on the entire season. We are up over 21 units on the year with an ROI just above 10%. We had a little bit of a cold streak to end the season, but we've been profitable in both weeks of the NFL playoffs. Let's hope we can keep that going this week with, as I mentioned, 4 more bangers. The first one we're going to talk about, this is in the Chiefs-Ravens game. Isaiah Pacheco, anytime touchdown, plus 140 odds at FanDuel. You're probably sick of me talking about Isaiah Pacheco anytime touchdown because if you follow me on this YouTube channel, this is now the 3rd week in a row that I've been on Pacheco's anytime touchdown. The good news is he's come through for us both times so far, so let's hope that we can go 3-4-3. The funny part is the odds have literally gotten better as the weeks have gone on, despite the fact that he's kept scoring. Against the Dolphins game, it was around even money, plus 100 or so best offered. Last week, I was able to get it at plus 115. Now we are getting it up at plus 140. And all he's done, as I mentioned, he scored in every week, yet we're able to get more favorable odds for us. He has Pacheco has scored in 6 straight games at this point, both of the playoff games, and then 4 weeks heading into the playoffs. I know the matchup against the Ravens is brutal just because of how good their defense is in general. You don't expect the Chiefs to move the ball up and down the field, but if the Chiefs have any red zone opportunities, they're probably going to give the ball to Pacheco. He's been getting the ball a ton in the red zone, and he's been rewarding them, which makes them want to give him the ball in the red zone even more. If you did tune into my channel last week, you heard all of the details I'm about to give you. I'll repeat if anybody missed. In the red zone, Pacheco leads the Chiefs both in targets and carries. So I know McKinnon's been hurt for a while, which goes into the targets option, but part of being there is also being available. And like I said, he leads the Chiefs both in targets and carries in the red zone. With carries, he's got 45 inside the 20 for 6 touchdowns. He's got 9 targets for 2 touchdowns. The next closest Chief has 7 carries and 5 targets. So the targets are a little bit closer. Carries, not even close. And then if we go inside the 5-yard line, the really, really high leverage opportunities for a touchdown. Not surprisingly, Pacheco leads the Chiefs with 9 attempts inside the 5 for 5 touchdowns. The next closest running back on the Chiefs has 2 carries. Now, yes, like I said, this matchup against the Ravens is tough. They're a good passing defense. They're a good running defense as well. So I don't expect the Chiefs to have a game like they did against the Bills where they literally don't punt until the 4th quarter. But if they even have a couple red zone opportunities, if they get the ball inside the 5-yard line, they're going to give Pacheco at least a couple chances to score, and he's been rewarding them. Their offensive line is good in the red zone, granted a little bit banged up, but I love riding once again with Pacheco to score. Hopefully he comes through for us. Next up, same game, Lamar Jackson over 63.5 rushing yards. I was able to get this at minus 120 odds at ESPN Bet. This is another play that I was on this YouTube channel last week, another play that came through for me. So hopefully I'm not just playing the hits and it's not going to cash once again. But at least with this play for Lamar Jackson, the books did adjust. Last week, his rushing total was set at 50.5, which he basically doubled with 100 yards and 200 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Now this week, it's a little bit higher at 63.5. I still think it was too low. Even at the minus 120 odds, I got a positive expected value play at ESPN Bet for the over 63.5 rushing yards. Pretty much every other book prices his total above this number. And the logic for backing a quarterback rushing prop in the playoffs makes sense, right? In general, quarterbacks that do have some semblance of legs and athleticism with their legs, they tend to run more in the playoffs. You're not playing it safe. You're not preserving your body. You're trying to do everything you can to win. And that was pretty clearly the case last week for Lamar, who, as I mentioned, ran for 100 yards and he had 11 rush attempts. That was a game heading into the second half that the Ravens were dominating, right? They ended up winning that game by a ton. Now you figure this game against the Chiefs is going to be tougher. Chiefs are just a better team, better defense, probably going to be able to score more as well. So you hope that Lamar is going to need his legs even more this week than he did last week. And I understand the notion for those of you that are against this play, you're probably saying, well, the Chiefs aren't going to let Lamar do what he did last week. They're going to try and contain him in the pocket. They're going to play with that in mind and how they play their defensive coverage. But you also have to keep in mind on the Chiefs side, no Willie Gay at linebacker. That's huge for them. He's their best option to spy the opposing quarterback. And you could have said the same thing about Josh Allen last week, and he ran for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, I'm only playing the yards on this one. The touchdown odds for Jackson aren't quite as good as they are for Josh Allen because he doesn't score as much. So I'm only going to ride with the yards for Lamar, but I do like him to score as well. But again, just the yards is what we're tracking here. Now, those are our 2 plays for the first game. Next up, Lions versus 49ers. First play, Brandon Aiyuk, 100 plus receiving yards, plus 164 odds at FanDuel. I think that Aiyuk should absolutely blow up in this game. Debo, no Debo, I'm not scared off either way. I love backing Aiyuk in this game. Now, we all know how bad the Lions' passing defense is. We watched it 2 straight playoffs games. But one particular issue that they're going to have is Aiyuk is awesome. As a man, he's an awesome receiver against man coverage. PFF grades him as the 3rd best receiver in the NFL against man coverage. And the Lions, they play man at the 10th highest rate in the NFL, and they allow an explosive rate on man coverage at about a 15% rate, which is also in the bottom of the NFL. All of this does not bode well for the Lions trying to guard Brandon Aiyuk. I will admit, Aiyuk was a little bit quiet, not a little bit. He was quiet last week against the Packers. It was just a weird, bad game for Brock Purdy in the 49ers passing offense. Not supposed to be as rain heavy in this one, so hopefully Purdy can actually throw the ball. Aiyuk only had 32 receiving yards last week, but he had 100 plus in 3 of the last 4 games of the regular season. Now, I took out the last game in which the 49ers benched all of their starters. So taking out the last game against the Rams, he went 100 plus in 3 of 4 games. And you got to just look at what receivers have done against the Lions recently. Even receivers that you know are going to be the number 1 option, they just can't stop. Last week, Mike Evans had 147 yards on 8 receptions, and he had a touchdown. The week prior, Puka Nacua, 9 receptions for 181 yards. He scored a touchdown. Even if you go back further than that, the last game of the regular season, Justin Jefferson had 192 receiving yards. If you go back even prior to that, CeeDee Lamb had 227 receiving yards against the Lions. So yeah, very, very bad against wide receiver ones. Even if you know the ball's coming to them, they can't guard them. Again, even if Debo ends up not playing, I love Aiyuk in this one, pumping his receiving yards up to 100 plus. And then last up, 4th and final pick, another play that we're getting here, Jahmyr Gibbs over 21.5 receiving yards, -1 at 20 odds at ESPN Bet. Another pretty good price that we're getting here on ESPN Bet when you compare to every other book. Caesars prices Jahmyr Gibbs receiving line at over 24.5, so 25 plus. And they priced that at -126, so worse odds for 4 yards higher. Most books price this number, again, above the number that we are getting at. And I was on Gibbs receiving yards on the stream last week. I didn't give it out for my official video, but if you tune into the live streams that we do every Sunday morning, I gave that play out. Once again, cashed, and somehow we're getting it for a lower number, kind of similar to the Isaiah Pacheco play. And I understand why, right? We'll get into the 49ers defense. And Gibbs, he had a long stretch at the end of the regular season where he wasn't getting a lot of receiving work. He went under this number in the last 7 games of the regular season. But when the playoffs started, he's now cashed it in both of the games in the playoffs. 43 yards against the Rams. Last week he had 40 yards against the Bucks. On each game he had 4 targets. In that 7-game stretch in the regular season, he only had 4 or more targets twice in 7 games. Now he's done it in both games in the playoffs. So he is getting more passing work. And this should work out for him against this defense just in terms of the matchup. I know the 49ers do have really good linebackers. They also generate a lot of pressure. And one thing that quarterbacks do when they get pressured, they like to dump the ball off to the running back, especially someone like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's extremely explosive and has been phenomenal for the Lions in the playoffs. So Gibbs should be in line for more work just in general, especially the fact that if he ends up being the safety valve for Goff when he's pressured. So I love targeting his receiving yards in this one. And that's all we got. 4 bangers for you guys to lock in. Let's hope we can have another profitable day. At least we can have a profitable day in every single game, or our first 3 weeks of the playoffs, every single week of the playoffs. Then we're on to the Super Bowl. Appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me the entire season. Make sure to subscribe if you are not already. and have a good one.